Hi everybody, an update on the Crf230 F. Well, I've got the whole bike back together and ready for the trails. So let's do an update on what we've been doing. So I've got my new tyre fitted, new tube, new rim lock, new rim tape, all of that good stuff. So that's my Pirelli, she's ready to go. I've got my new wheel bearings fitted into the hub. Now the way I do that is I sit the hub on some blocks of wood on its side, on its flat if you like, and then I use a long screwdriver and I just carefully feel for the lower bearing and drift that one out. Once you've drifted that one out, the insert tube, axle tube, will fall out. Then you can flip the wheel over and drift out the other bearing and seal. So that's easy done. Then I clean the whole hub out, clean it out nice and neatly, where the bearings are going to sit, where the seal's going to sit, grease it all up nicely with fresh grease, and then use the right size socket on the outside edge of the new bearings and carefully drift one of them in, then insert the axle tube, drift the other bearing in, followed by the bearing seal. Should only take you about half an hour to do that job. Also I have fitted new brake shoes to the rear drum. This bike has a drum brake, so I've got new drum brake shoes, new wheel bearings, new sprocket, new hardware to hold the sprocket onto the hub, new chain, new front sprocket, and so that's pretty much what I've done at this end, and cleaned and lubricated everything as I've gone, of course. Then down the front end, you may remember from an earlier video, I fitted a brand new disc. The old disc was very badly worn, paper thin in fact, a new caliper with new pads, a new tyre, again Pirelli up front as well, new rim lock, new rim tape, and new tube. Now I haven't done the fork seals, that's for a later job, but they feel okay for riding now. There's no leaking going on and they don't appear to be too bad. The oil etc feels okay, good damping etc for now. So that's that all done. I also fitted new footrests and springs. I've charged my battery, so I'm just about ready to take it for a little test ride. What else have I done up front here? Did I mention that I've done new wheel bearings and seals? I'm not sure if I mentioned that. I've done that as well. Okay, then up front here I've put new bars. Really pleased with the way these bars look actually. I was a bit worried about the colour, but no, I think the colour suits it actually. This looks nice. Fairly conservative. I'm fairly conservative, so it suits me. Neck and bars, I think from memory they were from France, alloy. So yeah, there's an update on the Crf230 F. Really happy with the way it's all turned out, and all the sorts of tasks that can be done by any person that's got some mechanical ability, and the tools you need are fairly basic to do this work. I ended up taking the tyre to the dealership, fairly costly, but it's worth it really. It saved a lot of time, and it's a very difficult job to stretch these tyres on with the rim lock etc without damaging the tube, just with tyre levers on the floor. So they've got the right equipment to do that, so I think it was worth it in the end. Plus it meant I could get on with other jobs. So let's do a bit of a summary on what would happen if you were to get yourself a bike. So this bike was in fairly poor condition. It still does need some more work to make it cosmetically perfect, but mechanically she's good to go now. Okay, she's engine serviced, filters, new oil, all of that sort of good stuff, so she's ready to go. But if you were to go down this pathway yourself and get a bike that has been neglected, maybe it's come off a farm or it just hasn't really been well looked after, and you feel it's a good bargain, well, it may be a bargain initially. The original purchase price or the initial purchase price, you may feel you've got a fairly good deal, but when you start to add up the cost of all of the parts to bring it up to a rideable standard with reliability, it adds up pretty fast. But at least at that stage you've got yourself almost a brand new bike. All the moving parts anyway are back to brand new again, so you've got to sort of weigh that up as well against buying a bike that's got that already done and having to pay for somebody else's labour, and maybe retail prices on the parts. So you're going to be up for, to do the job well, you're going to be up for brakes and bearings on the front wheel, and I would say a tyre and tube at the minimum. Okay, and you're probably going to have to look at the forks. Okay, engine, at the very least you're going to have filters and fresh oil, and do a check over. And you're always going to replace the sprockets. Guarantee the sprockets will come worn, they'll be all distorted and maybe broken teeth, and the chain is probably munted as well. So new sprocket to the front, and then a new chain, and then a rear sprocket, because you're not going to put a new chain and a new front sprocket without doing the rear sprocket. That's just causing problems later. And then you're going to have to look at the rear hub, bearings there, brakes there, either it'll be disc pads or caliper if it's badly damaged, corroded for example. You may not have to get the caliper apart to do seals and maintenance on the pistons, so sometimes easier just replace the caliper. That would go for the front caliper as well, which is what I ended up doing. So yeah, on the rear wheel you got those wheel bearings of course, and the sprocket and the brakes, and always a tyre and tube. And so straight away you can start seeing how that adds up. I think in parts alone, the front part there, $100 for the tyre, caliper was $100, disc was about $50, bearings about $40. You can see a couple of hundred, say $300 on the front, easy another $400 on the rear, the chain and the sprocket, all of that. You end up getting close to $1,000, or certainly up into the high hundreds, to bring your bike up to a good reliable standard where you're not going to have any issues for a long time. So just bear that in mind. If you think you've got a good bike for maybe $1,000 or $1,500, which is quite easy to get, you're probably going to find that all of those parts I've just mentioned are all worn out and require replacement. So just bear that in mind. But of course that's the fun of the whole project, is actually doing that and getting the satisfaction. And the satisfaction is just really, it's just amazing. Like, I feel really satisfied now with the way this bike has turned out. Really, really happy, because I can remember picking it up and I could hardly move it. It was so corroded. The brakes were seized on and stuff like that. So I'm really happy with where this bike is at the moment, and it's a labour of love. Sure, the parts cost money, but I've been doing it slowly over time. Some of you remember that I've been sitting on that rear tyre for nearly 6 months, getting around to it. So yeah, there you go, a bit of an update on working on my Crf230 F, 2008 I think it is, and she's ready now for the trails. I'll give her a bit of a run and do a short video with the engine ticking over. She idles nicely. So thank you for viewing, and please don't be put off. If you're looking at a project, go for it. You'll have a lot of satisfaction out of doing this. You'll have the enjoyment out of finding the bike as well. Pick a bike that you've got some sort of connection to. Maybe you're a Honda guy or Suzuki guy or Kawasaki guy, you just like the colours. Go for the bike that really interests you, and then you'll also get the enjoyment of sourcing all of the parts, trying to get the best deals, and then going through parts manuals and going through workshop manuals on how to work on the bike. It's good for young people getting used to working with tools and working with their hands. There's just so many benefits out of working with a bike. Another good thing about working with bikes is they don't take up a lot of space. In my garage, it just sits nicely by the car. It doesn't take up a whole car space like a car resto would do. And you never know, you could always put it inside and do it in the lounge. I'm sure that'll get some attention from people. Anyway, thank you for viewing, and I'll catch you a little bit later on in the next one. I'll give you an update on where I am with my DRZ 250. I've started cleaning it up. I'm looking at what's required, made a part list to get that bike up and going. It's not actually going to be as big a job as I thought it would be, so I'll give you an update on that a little bit later on. All the best. Bye for now.